Hey friends, Liz here to invite you to check out our Patreon. That's where we publish extra episodes every other week, and that's also where we will continue any series we're reading. So if you liked our coverage of ACOTAR, Guild, High Mountain Court, or Fourth Wing, check out our Patreon to continue those series along with us. We also let you know what we're reading each month in advance in case you want to read along with us too. There might be a few other surprises throughout the year for our patrons as well. You can get all of this for just $3 a month, so check it out and we would really appreciate the support. Anyway, on to today's episode.
Welcome to Your Safe Space, the podcast your partner, friends, parents, whoever thinks is dirty. Don't have time to read books? Want to understand the jokes and the TikToks? We got you, fam. We're the Spice Traders, and we deal in spicy books. I'm Katie, and I need it to make sense.
I'm Liz, and I'm hypercritical. As always, we start every episode with 3 things. The first is a generic trigger warning. You can find specific triggers for this book in our show notes, so please check those out. Also, we do use foul language and talk a lot about sex. If you have sensitivity to any of this, please give this episode a skip.
Secondly, we talk about books. The whole book, nothing but the book, so help me goddess. If you plan to read this book and don't want something spoiled right now, don't listen to this episode.
Lastly, we acknowledge that a good book can hit you at the wrong time. The views expressed in our discussion are our opinion, and we absolutely don't want to diminish the work and the talent of the authors in our community. That said, we have some notes. So, I had 3 times today, I had that feeling. The only way I can describe it is showing up to a class to take a test that you have never studied for or have sat in the class before. Because I kept feeling I was I didn't do what I was supposed to do for this. I didn't read the book. And I was oh no, that's okay. That's the whole point. And Thursday I'd be oh my God, I didn't finish the book. And then I'd be nope, it's okay. It's okay.
It's okay. It's literally fine.
Literally fine. And I just couldn't wrap my head around it.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you were feeling because I was on a walk with James yesterday and I was oh yeah, tonight I got to do my notes for recording tomorrow. And then I was wait, no, I'm good for tomorrow's recording. I have to do notes for Friday's recording, but I'm good. And it was just difficult to get my head around because normally I'm not good. Normally I'm yeah, I got to do my notes for recording the night before.
And so I opened your notes now because obviously I didn't I have very few notes. I didn't really take any notes. So I'm glad that you found a summary of it because I can't, this book. And I was so stoked. I bought it. I own this thing now.
Oh my
I have
gosh.
it. Because I was cool, I'm going to go back to annotating and do my little flaggies. And I filmed a whole setup, my annotation with me with what my colors were. And then I was going to do a thing at the end where I was hey, here's how many flags of each one or whatever. And so I'm still going to use all the content and be I made it through. I didn't even finish the first part because we decided to tap out. So I didn't fully get to chapter 11. I was
nope.
Maybe page 100 and I was I'm done here.
Yeah,
I'm done. And I was trying to be all stealthy about it, in recording, covering the name because it was a reveal. And then I'm bye.
Get out of here.
Get out of here.
Yeah, I was disappointed because it has all of the things that could be good, right?
Yeah,
it's creepy, it's dark, it has what I assume to be a witchy universe that's pretty well thought out, and it's just woof, big woof.
And I mean, this isn't gonna follow our normal structure, so I'm gonna be before we get into it, but I'm guys, we're here. I really wanted to like it. And even in the prologue, I was okay, all right. I like it. Right? And then in chapter 1, I was okay, cool. The woods are creepy. This is creepy. And then we get to chapter 3 and I'm like, why are we still here?
Why are we still in the woods? Why do we spend
we're
5
still
fucking
in the
chapters in the woods? And then there's suddenly houses around the woods?
Okay, so like I still okay, I'm saying I still as if I read 600 pages, which to be fair I didn't. I don't understand the structure of the woods because they make it seem like no one approaches the woods. And there's also like a gate question mark. I don't know. No one approaches the woods. It's very scary. You don't live near it. It's suspicious to be near it. But there's also a house right next to it. Don't worry about it. That one's normal. She's a witch. We just don't ask questions.
Yeah, but it's
and
also
then there's like a town right behind the house. I'm like,
yes.
So you're all on the woods. You,
so
you live all up in the woods
enough. Like it's kind of a loose term. It's kind of like that stop sign in your hometown that nobody really pays attention to.
Yeah.
We should at least, I think, introduce what we're talking about today. So I'm gonna say, girl, what are we talking about today?
Yes, sorry, you're right. Today we're talking about Anathema by Keri Lake. This was published in 2024, and it is the first in a duology, The Eating Woods. This book is 688 pages long, which is a chonker.
Jesus Christ, is it?
And for so many reasons. Ordinarily, this would be part 1 of probably 4. But how shall I say this? We didn't finish this book. So this is our first DNF, which I think is kind of exciting, actually.
Yeah, I mean, so technically speaking, there was a DNF back when Des was with us, but I was the only one that started it. And I was so triggered that I think within 24 hours, I was like, we're not fucking reading this book.
Yeah, I think that was a Flock.
I think it was. Yeah, Flock.
I see it all the time on TikTok, and I'm just like, yeah, I never started that. Because it was very
so
quickly. You were like, I'm out. This is horrible.
Yeah, no. And so like we didn't even get to a place where, you know, we had already committed to it. We had announced it. It was in our schedule, like blah, blah. So this is kind of a first thing for us. And so what we decided to do was like, we didn't finish it. So we're going to do our best to give you a TLDR. And obviously we're not going to rate it because that would be unfair. But we will talk about why we did not finish it.
Yes. And so if you did read this book and finish it, I have seen some good reviews. I've also seen some not good reviews. But like, feel free to, you know, comment. Like, let us know what you think. Is it fair that we DNF'd it? Did you also DNF it? Like, let us know your thoughts on it. Because you're right. I like the TLDR so that you know what you're getting into since we did commit more time to this. It just wasn't for us. And we're going to talk about why.
Exactly. Yeah. And that does not a qualitative judgment. It's a opinion, which is like this entire podcast. So if you don't have that by now, like maybe you're in the wrong place.
Exactly. So I will follow our normal routine thus far, and I will talk about the cover. It is fine. It doesn't stand out as much. Like, okay, so this book is kind of that gothic horror, gothic romance vibe. And so the front cover is this really dark, woodsy forest scene with a raven or a crow, and then the back kind of silhouette of a girl with long dark hair and like another raven or crow on her shoulder. So it very, very much sets it up to be magical and woodsy and creepy and all of those things that I personally usually love. The cover didn't really stand out to me. Like if I picked this up at a bookstore, it's just very dark. It's a very dark cover. Color wise, there's not a lot of contrast, so it doesn't stand out, but it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little one note, but it's not offensive.
No. And it's like the artistic rendition, so it's not the real person on there, and it's just her back, so like it's just a little boring, honestly.
Yeah.
Especially for as scary as this book supposedly could be.
Yeah, as scary and as like, I don't know, kind of like into some of the concepts as it gets, because it's very much like, oh, like the spirit world versus like the mortal world. Like I think they could have leaned into that a little bit more, but you know, here we are. Yeah.
But so let's get into it. Katie, I'm going to kick it back to you.
Okay, so I am going to credit Madeline Ebble's review on Goodreads. Thank you, Madeline, for providing such a good summary. And frankly, your summary makes me confident in the decision to not finish this book. So that's where we're going to get the summary from. It was the best one that I could find. And so thank you very much. Before we get into the book itself, we do get a couple of kind of, at this point, I would say boilerplate stuff. Like we get some tropes, we get a thank you, blah, blah. We get an author's note that speaks specifically to how Keri Lake likes to create very complex worlds. And so like, I guess just kind of prepping the reader for that. And I don't know what my experience would have been without reading that author's note, but I think it definitely contributed to my choosing violence, I'll say, when I was reading this book.
Yeah, I felt a little bit offended, almost. Like, I've read complicated books, and I've mentioned it briefly on this podcast. We're never going to cover it because it's not relevant for this podcast, but any listeners who've read The Wheel of Time is a very complicated world. There's no such warning in the beginning of like, I write a complicated world. It just felt like, hey, if you're too dumb to understand this, don't read it. Which probably isn't what Keri Lake meant, but I didn't like it.
Yeah, and I think from my perspective, it's like, I don't need a warning that this is a complicated book if you do a good job of explaining the world, right? And I think the primary beef that I have is that there was not a good explanation for any of the things that happen.
No, and the only things that I did kind of like, so looking at it now, there's some parts that I did appreciate from her kind of warning. One was that like, hey, if you want spice, it's coming, but it is a slow burn. Like, I like that warning up top. Cool, right. I'll take that. The problem is like, my plots tend to be intricate and layered. And I'm just like, okay, but don't we all want to write intricate plots? Like,
the other thing that we get before the book starts is a full-on glossary. And there's like a couple of different sections to this glossary, and I fully appreciate that. It even comes with pronunciation guides, which I love. Unfortunately, I didn't find it to be particularly comprehensive because, especially going through like this summary and trying to orient myself, even in the first 100 pages that I read, like I was a little confused about who people were. And the glossary is not useful for characters.
No, it's not useful for characters at all. And this is something that we have mentioned in other books, because a lot of books will have glossaries at the end, probably because there's spoilers in glossaries. And we've kind of complained about the fact that we don't see a glossary at the end.
Right.
So I did like the putting it up front, but I think I texted you this, but I was kind of immediately overwhelmed. Like, we get a full 17 pages of glossary. And like, before I'm sold on the story, like that was kind of daunting, which reiterates to me like, okay, maybe glossaries should be at the back and I just need to pay attention to a table of contents.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I am going to bring up the Kindle version just really quick because I actually forget if we get a map or not.
We do get a map.
Okay.
It looks fine. My note is a really nice map, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I the map is not memorable to me, but I also
it's not a memorable map.
Wanted the map to have like I wanted the glossary to cover the map, if that makes sense.
Yes, I do know what you mean, because I think the thing with a couple things with the glossary is, okay, where it first lost me was the first glossary. It's different like species or races. She calls them races. But it's kind of mapped out like a family tree, and that just like really confused me because I was like, these are people. No, these are types of people. These are, and then we get a regular glossary and then another sub glossary, and I'm just like, okay. None of that's related to the map. None of it's related to each other. The things I wanted to look up in the first 100 pages weren't in the glossary.
Yeah, exactly. And then the things that I wanted to look up in the summary weren't in the glossary either. And so like there's going to be some holes that we don't have questions to, right? And I can't really speak to if those holes get filled if you were to read the book. But my suspicion is that maybe is the answer.
Maybe. It almost, and this kind of goes back to our first blurb, but I'm not trying to like discredit Keri Lake for creating a complex world by any means. It's hard to plot a book. But it almost feels like she set out to create an intricate plot just to prove that she could write an intricate plot. It was like, how complicated can I make this?
Yeah, I mean, so let's get into like the intricacies of the plot. Once we get past the part that that we read collectively that made us decide not to finish it. So I'm going to read the summary part of this, and then like we can kind of talk about why we decided to not finish. So we start the book with Maveth, who's nicknamed Maeve.
Thank God, because I immediately texted Katie. I told my partner, I was like, her name is Maveth. And every time I say it, it just sounds like I'm making fun of someone whose name is Mavis with a lisp. And I cannot handle the name Maveth. I'm sorry. I hate it. I hate it. I was out immediately because her name was Maveth.
I know. Same. So what actually happens here is that we start with a prologue that seems to last forever about this family whose boys are being taken and sacrificed by this dark wizard, and one of them did it when he was not a baby, and then we watch the baby get sacrificed, but the baby doesn't die, and he just gets tattoos put all over his body, and we find out later that this baby's name is Zavander. But we don't start with Zavander. When we go to chapter 1, we start with Maveth. And we learn that Maveth is depressed. She lives with her, quote, grandmother, but in reality, her grandmother is adopted because she was adopted by her father, who found her when she was abandoned as a baby near the forest by which she lives. More about the forest later. Her father is unfortunately dead, and she's running out of options for how to spend her life. She is a pariah in her parish because she's seen as this like demon abandoned baby. And she can either marry an old creepy mine owner or join the red goddess priestesses and have her tongue literally removed. Ouch. Ugh. Maeve has experienced mysterious things happening relating to this wood that she lives next to called the Eating Woods. A letter, for example, was changed when it floated inside of the wood. She fell and cut her arm on some bones and developed a strange infection. And she was also visited by the apparition of an exiled villager who speaks in a language that only she can understand. Maeve is ready to escape this life, which is looking pretty grim. Her sister Alicia has a plan for both of them to escape and run away with their youngest, not blood-related uncle, with whom Alicia is sleeping. More on that later. Cut to Zavander, who is an assassin, who was forever changed when that sorcerer dropped his body into this magical fire as a baby. He seeks a way to get rid of the black fire burning within him, and so he must travel to the desolate mortal lands and end a bloodline, obtain a bloodstone, and return it to a mage named Doleon, who will help him rid him of the fire.
Cool.
So Zavander travels to the mortal lands, tracks this bloodstone that he needs to Maveth, but he finds that he just can't kill her, and so he runs away.
Because this is your life's purpose.
This is where I stopped reading.
I stopped reading shortly before this. Like, I was in Zavander's chapter, but she hadn't met Maveth yet. And that's when you were like, I'm out. And I was like, thank God, because I'm tired.
Yeah, so I'm not going to be very organized about my feedback because I have spent like literally no time thinking about this book after I stopped reading it. But like, let's just start with the prologue. The prologue is so fucking long. Like,
it's so long, and it's kind of disjointed. Like, one of the things that adds to a complex story, and I'm just going to keep calling it that, a little bit tongue in cheek, but there are other languages in this story, which is usually great. Fine, I'm down. You created a whole language, that's amazing. But we get this thing where Zaveth's mom,
Zavander.
Also, I hate the name Zavander. Zaveth.
Zaveth.
It was like, that sounded wrong. I hate these
That's
names.
their couple name.
It's not a bad couple name. She's like yelling at the dark wizard in her tongue, and then it's translated for us on the page, which I do like. I was here for all of that. But it's like it's so long, and it's confusing because it's like, I have to sacrifice my baby for this prophecy, and I always knew that, but I also kind of tried it with my first baby to see if that would work, even though I knew it wouldn't work. So I like fucked up his brother. Sorry. I hope it works with this baby. And then, oh, it didn't. But like, we also hurt the wizard because there's some Voldemort shit going on where like he can't touch the baby. I don't know.
And also my husband's there. And the reason that we have to do this might not have to do with any like prophecy, but all has to do with like his bad business dealings. And so this wizard is like tormenting us, but I am a witch also, and maybe I'll grow a backbone and like save my baby, but maybe not. Also, it's kind of weird that this is a gaping fire hole in the middle of the country. Those don't usually show up, and I'm just like, oh my god.
Yeah. And then we like see baby Zavander, and it's like after the fact, and he's got these like black like lines, veins on him, and also like
baby
implied
tattoos or
that
something.
his heart is missing. Like he's got this like hole, like wound in his body.
Yeah, there was a lot going on there.
It's as chaotic as we just said.
Yeah, and I think the thing that I noticed was like this author didn't leave room for people to like fill in the blanks, right? Like specifically in the prologue, like we kind of see it from the mother's point of view, and I think it's third person limited, if I'm remembering correctly. It's either that or first person, I think, from her perspective. And she literally is telling us what every single character is doing every moment of the prologue.
Yes. Which
and
makes
I just
it
don't
muddy.
care.
No. And I'm going to keep calling back to this because I'm just a little mad about it. Don't tell me you wrote a complicated story and then not trust me to be able to handle a complicated story. Because like a good story lets the reader fill in those gaps and like follow you and get it. And you don't have to tell us every single movement. So like you made it complicated and then you're talking to me like I'm an idiot.
Right. Because I would have enjoyed the prologue a little bit more if there was any type of mystery left to it. But we understand, like we get this long-winded explanation about what this gaping fire wound in the earth is, and like who this mage is, and like who this family is. And it's like I don't actually care about those things. Like show me the thing that's happening and then spend the rest of the book explaining why it happened.
Yeah. And that's where like I was trying so hard to not choose violence. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna give it a try. And so it was like, if you boil down the prologue to its base essence and cut out all the bullshit, I was here for it. It was just so much harder than it needed to be to understand like why you're telling me all these things that I don't need to know yet. Fully seeing that I have another 600 pages to go.
Yeah. So then once we get past the prologue, then we get thrown into this world with Mavith that I think we've already covered why that bothers us. Mavith. But in this opening scene, beyond the fact that we spend far too much time with Mavith by the edge of the woods, the mechanics of the scene just don't make sense to me, because she is ostensibly waiting for some kind of procession to show up near the woods, these creepy ass woods. But then over the course of events, like she leaves that wood and then comes back for the procession later. It was just a weird order of events. So then I don't know why she was by the woods so early. But regardless of those mechanics, the woods itself are like described to be kind of this like creepy, sentient thing in the book that people kind of stay away from. And then so I have this impression that it's in the middle of nowhere, but then a house shows up like in the middle of chapter 2,
suddenly right there on the edge of the woods.
And not just that house, Mavith's house is also right there.
Yeah, because of some thing that was growing there that they chose to live there. But I'm like, okay, but the whole first chapter, it seemed like you were in full isolation, but really your entire parish backs up to these woods.
Right.
But there's lines like, if anyone sees me over here, like they're going to be suspicious. And I'm like, but you live here.
It's literally your backyard, girl.
Like,
you'd
I
be
don't
forgiven.
understand. I don't get it.
And it's described as having like this very like clean line like between where the wood is not and then where the wood starts. And like if you cross that line, like something in the wood is going to come out and grab you, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it feels very kind of wabi-sabi, like how that line works, because she like reaches past the line at some point for some reason, and she doesn't get like taken, she just gets cut on bones that are also in the wood.
Yeah, that's where I was like, is there a gate? Is this like a doorway? Like, there's like, it's like a bone spear. And I'm like a weapon or like a spear of bone?
I think it's a spear of bone, and I think it's because there is like a gate of bones here for some reason.
Yeah.
But I just have more questions now.
I also had more questions. And then the other thing with like this house that just appears is like essentially the black witch of the neighborhood that like no one can trust, and she's creepy because she lives so close to the woods. But then also everyone thinks that Maveth is the black witch, and I'm just like, but you all live here.
Yeah.
I can't stress that enough.
I can't stress that enough. And so beyond the like houses being near or far or something, the other thing that wasn't immediately clear to me was like there's snow on the ground. And so literally the way that this scene was built in my head was like, we're in a woods. Okay. There's a line between here and the woods. Okay, great. There's a bone sticking out of the woods. Oh no, there's a bone arch. Got it. Okay, there's a house. What? There's a house here? Oh wait, there's two houses here? Oh shit, there's snow on the ground. Like,
yeah,
that level of like, and this, and this, and this, and this. It was not like a seamless, contiguous like description.
No. And so that's where it's a little frustrating. Like, I think she did build an interesting world. I just don't think it was delivered well.
No, I don't think so either.
Because I'm curious about the woods. What happens in the woods? What lives in there that eats people? Like, why is it called the Eating Woods? I just can't make it through 700 pages of that.
I can't either. Yeah. I also can't make it through 700 pages of Maveth and her stupid sister making terrible decisions for 50 pages.
Her sister, and they're not biologically related, but her sister like boinking their uncle. I was just like, why is this a plot point?
Are they related? Because I know that Maveth is adopted, but Alicia's not.
I think it said something where like Alicia's not adopted, but I think the uncle is like the brother of someone related by marriage. So it's like,
okay,
say it's like Alicia's blood aunt's husband. So like they're not related by blood, but like they're in the same family tree.
Yeah, they're in the same family tree, and they're also oddly in the same family business, living in the same family house. So this was another thing where like we were given information in such a way where it made it feel like characters were clipping into the wall, because like the grandmother is grouchy and disgusting for no reason. And then we've got this older uncle who like is creepy, and then we've got the younger uncle, but at some point it just felt like uncles were coming out of the woodwork, and I was like, how many fucking people live in this house?
A family tree would have been really helpful in the 17 pages of glossary that we got.
Right. Exactly. And also like I got confused because there was a grandfather who was nice and a father who was nice, and apparently they're both dead.
Yeah, but that was also kind of like not explicitly stated.
Right. I also have no idea if there was like a mother figure at all ever.
Couldn't tell you. I mean, Maveth came from somewhere, but like it doesn't matter. And that's the thing too. Like if you're going to create a story about an orphan, either give me all the information about her parents or give me no information. Don't give me like I have this half ghost father that we'll never speak about, but no mom. Ever. And is that your adoptive mom, or like there's just no mom ever?
Yeah. And I think like the thing that failed to grab me was like the inciting like moment, right, is supposed to be like Mavis gets cut by this bone, and then she starts to develop these like weird abilities. But the thing that like a decision that happened or needed to be made wasn't made or happening within the first 100 pages. So it was just like life was happening to Mavis. And then at some point, Evander shows up, and like maybe that was going to propel the story forward, but it just felt like we were taking way too long to start the story.
Yeah. Like my rule of thumb, I remember, I think my mom gave me this rule of thumb when I was in like middle school and wanted to read Lord of the Rings. And the first 50 pages, oh no, it was of The Hobbit, or I don't remember. It doesn't matter. Either The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings. The first 50 pages is just like Bilbo's family tree. And I was like, I am bored. I'm so bored.
Yep.
Because like they're planning the birthday party, right? So it must have been the Fellowship. And my mom was like, give it 100 pages. If you still don't like it, fine. And so since then, and like it got better, obviously. Lord of the Rings is great. But since then, I'm like, 100 pages, that seems fair to me. And if I still don't know why we're here or where we're going, and I don't care about any of the characters, there's so many other books to read.
Yeah. I mean, if I read, in this case, a little less than a sixth of the book and I'm still not convinced, I'm out.
Yeah. I just...
So,
and if this book were 300 pages, I might have pushed through, but it's just so long.
I know. It's just so long. Yeah. I mean, so I think if I had to boil down like why I didn't finish it to like the top 3 reasons, one of it would be like I found the writing style to be very not accessible, like just very difficult to read.
Yes.
The second one was I didn't give a flying fuck about any of the characters that I met.
Nope.
And the third one was I was not convinced that any of those things were going to improve in the rest of the book.
And am I really going to commit that much of my life, essentially 4 weeks of my life, to this? Yeah. I do want to point out, and we'll kind of talk more about it probably, but there were a few instances where Keri Lake did a really good job of the show don't tell that I was impressed with. It was just kind of few and far between. Mm-hmm. It was lost in the mud. But one of the things I do want to point out, to give like some other credit, is that she was talking about the red goddess priestesses and how like they don't have tongues. But the way she reveals that their tongues are removed is she's like looking at the priestesses, and the line is something like Mavis's point of view of like, I tried to imagine what it would feel like if this like wasn't in my mouth anymore. And I thought it was a really good way of showing like, hey, they get their tongues cut out, instead of just saying, hey, they get their tongues cut out. Whatever the line was, like, it was so good. And I was like, if you did more of that and let me fill in the pieces and less of this like info dump, people just like phasing through walls telling me every single movement of every single human that I don't give 2 shits about, I would be here for that. And you could probably cut out 300 pages.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, that's really the thing. So, I mean, maybe this book would be better if it was edited a little bit more aggressively. But
yeah. Because some of it I was like, okay, like you can write. She's not a bad writer. It's just too much. It's too complicated for no reason, while also not being complicated.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it also felt a little bit like, oh, we're reimagining some of these like core concepts. Like as I was reading through the glossary, I was like, you just made a different name for
fairy,
for a fairy or like a dragon or like whatever. Like these are pretty core concepts, but that's okay. It's okay. To each their own.
That's okay. If that's what you want to do, great. But like, we could also just call it a dragon.
Yep. So, okay. So, I do have 2 more pages of notes. So let's get into this summary.
Yeah. Tell me what happens in this book.
Yeah, I'll tell you what happens. So after Evander flees because he can't bring himself to kill Maeve, Maeve finds a weird egg, which then hatches into a wyvern/dragon that she hides from her family. Then she speaks to the old crone, the one with the house near the woods, near her house, and learns that Maeve has been blessed by the gods with the ability to commune with the dead. Maeve isn't convinced that this is a blessing for reasons that might seem obvious.
Yeah, fair.
During this time, Maeve is still lined up to marry that creepy old man, but her sister's secret is finally confessed out in the open. She is pregnant with that uncle's baby. Dun dun dun.
And it was said, even in the part that we did read, of like, even though they're not blood related, like this would mean exile because this parish is very puritanical.
Right, exactly. Like in the eyes of the Lord and the powers that be, you are related. So don't do that.
And when you do bad things, you get sent into the eating woods for whatever happens to you in there.
Right. But it was also weird because like, okay, just another thing. Like, I know you didn't make it this far to like interact with like the weird, creepy betrothed for Maeve, but like homeboy, this is like his hometown where they live, but he's like well traveled, right? And he's like, yeah, people aren't this weird, like not here. And I'm like, so couldn't Maeve just leave? Like,
yeah, why can't you just go? And the map is huge. Like, it's a big world. It's not one of those like, here's an island that we all live in. Like, it's a big place. So yeah, why couldn't she just leave? Is her betrothed the like, okay, I did not read this that critically, but there is essentially what I kind of read as like a priest sort of person that's super creepy with the ladies. It's not him, is it?
No, it's not him. It's a different guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's a creepy old man too that like spanks girls.
Yes.
For punishment.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, he's doing creepy priest things. Like, are we surprised?
Yeah. No.
Okay, so we're back with Zavander, and he's on a mission to rescue that mage, Dolian, from cannibals, which is a long story, and I don't know what that story is. We're not going to get into it. Zavander learns that mortals used to live wherever he is before being driven out to Mortasia. The mortals, called Corticae in this world, worshipped the death goddess, and Maeve is one of those Corticae people, but also death goddess blood runs in her veins, which I think is why he needs to kill her. So the mage, Dolian, is now being hunted by other mages for the bloodstones that he has. Yeah, And then the king that Zavander works for, is also hunting the mage. Yeah, so the king and these other mages are hunting Dolian. Awkward. Conflict of interest.
Very big conflict of interest. Like,
so because Dolian is like a liability, but also Zavander needs him to break the curse or something, he decides to take Dolian with him to figure out how to break this curse, like moving target kind of thing.
Of course.
So then back to Maeve, who learns that her future husband-to-be is a sick fuck, and she tries to find a way to save her sister and get out of this marriage.
Both those things.
She has a vision of a dead girl who tells her to run away with her sister and calls Maeve a witch. Cool. But then as Maeve's sister is about to be exiled from the town because she's pregnant by her uncle, Maeve causes a ruckus and they both flee into the eating woods.
Okay. Just, she was going to be exiled into the eating woods. So in order to escape, they run into the eating woods.
Yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure I have that right. Okay.
I mean, maybe. I don't know that they were going to be exiled into the eating woods, but I know that's what they do to exiles. So, like,
right,
probably.
so filling in the gaps here. Okay.
Yeah.
Ruckus.
So even though they've fled, Maeve's betrothed, the creepy business guy, doesn't let her escape that easily. But as he chases them through the wood, he gets eaten by a monster that can also shapeshift. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Of course.
But then also the little dragon that Maeve has follows Maeve. And they both, I think, go through the portal to where Zavander lives, which I think is like the Fae underworld situation, god realm concept.
Okay. Because they're in the mortal lands.
Yeah.
Got it.
Unfortunately, Alicia was not able to follow her and is trapped on the other side of the portal with that monster. Whoopsie.
Sorry, girl.
So when she's on the other side of this portal, she learns that mortals aren't allowed in this place, and the king's guards take Maeve to the prison to be raped and killed by violent prisoners.
Because they just like deserve a treat, I guess.
Everybody deserves some kind of joy, right?
There's a lot of, okay, like I know that there's that, hey, there's a trigger list, but these are not the triggers I want.
These are not the triggers you're looking for.
Nope.
So Zavander gets wind of this, and he reluctantly goes to rescue Maeve at the insistence of Dolian, because DeLion's like, look, Maeve is the last of her bloodline. You need the bloodstone. And so like if she dies without you doing the thing, then you're not going to be able to break the curse. And so I should be clear. When someone dies, Zavander has to like make them into a bloodstone using his magic and then collect it.
Ew.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Zavander does save her, and Maeve then starts training with Zavander at his house. And they learn that she has, quote, some pretty powerful powers. I say quote because I'm quoting from the review, and I thought that was funny.
That was really funny. I like the alliteration on that.
Yeah. And during this training montage, they start getting a little flirty, close proximity, yada, yada.
Training montage.
Yeah. So while she's staying with Zavander, she meets Branimar, which is Zavander's brother, the one that they sacrificed that didn't go so well.
The one that didn't work.
Yeah, and so now he's kind of monstrous, but apparently not in the service of this mage or dead. So that's great. And he and Maeve bond, which makes Zavander jealous because we can't have nice things. Meanwhile, Maeve is also getting closer with Zavander's sister, and he also doesn't like that. So Zavander gets a bone reader to come and look into Maeve's history so they can further the plot. And Zavander's sister doesn't seem to like this bone reader very much, but that's neither here nor there, I guess.
Also, you're going to tell me that Zavander's parents, and I only know from the prologue what I know, which could be wrong. They had 2 children, both of whom they tried to sacrifice, and then went on to have a 3rd child.
Yeah, I thought that marriage was over. Like
it should be. Maybe
well,
it was
and so like
sister from another mister.
We also see this, like the first time we see Zavander, or one of the first times we see Zavander, he's going to pull his sister out of a whorehouse because she voluntarily flees to this whorehouse to be used.
So what you're telling me is Zavander rudely took her from her job where she was willingly working to make money.
Correct.
Cool.
But she doesn't need to make the money because she's a rich girl. No, they're like noble or something.
Okay, so he just pulled her out of the whorehouse where she was going to get pleasure because he's a prude.
Yeah, something like that.
Cool. Love it.
Anyway, we learn that Maeve has 2 weeks to get trained by Zavander before she goes on a road trip with Dolian to find the tool to rid Zavander of his curse.
Why? No one knows.
No one knows.
We didn't read the book. Someone knows.
Before she leaves, Maeve and Zavander end up making out, but Zavander refuses to take things further and then avoids Maeve. Cool.
Okay. You're supposed to kill her, bro. All right.
So at some point, Maeve has lost her pet dragon, but she gets her pet dragon back, and we find that he's a giant sweet baby angel dragon thing. That's also a quote from the review.
I love that quote. He's a giant sweet baby angel dragon thing.
And this giant sweet baby angel dragon helps protect Maeve and Zavander's sister from fire drakes because they went to a becoming ceremony for the king's daughter. And a becoming ceremony is where she loses her virginity in front of a crowd. Cue the public sex scene, I guess.
Gross.
And so anyway, they got attacked on the way there, and then they're fine. But at the party, Maeve sees a scribe that she recognizes from the mortal world. So she learns through this interaction that this guy, that a mage, was sent to the mortal world by the dude who cursed Zavander, and that guy who cursed him isn't actually dead like Zavander thought, but he's actually hiding in the mortal realm.
Of course he is.
Of course he is, yes.
Of course he is.
She also learns that the mortal realm has a large supply of this substance, Vicarium, which magic people need to be magical. They literally have to eat it.
Ew.
Yeah.
I think I actually clocked that one in the glossary. I think Vicarium was in the glossary.
I'm pretty sure that one was, yeah. The one thing that was described and explained.
Yeah, because there's a couple drugs. There's a lot of drugs in the glossary, actually.
So anyway, Zavander kills a dude because he looks at Maeve. Big toucher and die vibes, I guess.
Which I'm usually here for. I'm not sold.
I'm not sold. So then Maeve gets abducted by some dumbass mages who try to destroy Maeve with sable fire, but she eats that shit and breathes fire and roasts them all alive.
That's metal.
Yeah, that's metal. I would be here for that.
Yeah.
But so then while she's saving herself, Zavander's sister and Delian come to save her, but they're thwarted by a large lady mage who tells Maeve that she's going to take Maeve to her sister, the one that was trapped on the other side of the portal that we forgot about.
I presume she was dead, honestly. Yeah.
So while she's churning through this choice, we go back to Zavander, who learns that the captain of the army, the king's army, and his former abuser wants to overthrow their kingdom. And she wants to tear Zavander's attention in two by threatening both his sister and Maeve, and ultimately hopes that these actions will get Zavander back to her.
Okay.
So picture like an Amarantha type.
Yeah. It's big Amarantha vibes.
But I don't know how threatening both his sister and the object of his affection will make him come back to her. It's okay. I don't need to understand.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. No. Maybe it does if you read the book. I will give some credit where it's due. I don't think so.
So Delian tells Zavander that Maeve is his mate and he needs to rescue her. I don't love how Zavander needs to be convinced to rescue Maeve at every point in time.
Repeatedly. It's like the third time Delian is like, you need to go get her. Yeah. And he's like, I don't want to.
And Delian's like, no, you should.
Come on.
So not only are they mates, but Delian goes on to say that without Maeve, evil will rise and the world will suffer.
Of course.
Go do it. Meanwhile, Maeve seems to have taken up the offer to go see her sister because she crosses back through the portal to her home, but nothing is quite right. Her, quote, sister is different, and her home is absolutely destroyed. At some point, Maeve runs into her mutated grandmother and uncle and incapacitates those bitches with a bone whip? Question mark.
Ew. Why are they mutated?
I don't know. And while she's doing this, Zavander finally arrives, and they ultimately decide to go find Maeve's real sister, since this other thing is not that. But
you're assuming she's alive still. I see.
So during this quest, they seek shelter with that crone from the beginning, whose house was on the side of the forest or something. And while they're hiding with her, they learn that the crone is actually from Zavander's realm, and that she fled to the mortal realm after the fall of the Corticae. The crone, we find out, is the one who found Maeve, though she never saw Maeve's mother. She only saw a flock of ravens or crows, which is the sign of Mortana, who's the goddess of death. The crone then changed Maeve's eye color so she could hide in the mortal realm.
I bet they were purple.
Question mark. I bet they were purple. And then it's what seems like mid-conversation, the crone gets attacked by some creatures and changes into a monster. So Maeve kills her with the new power that she develops.
Suddenly.
Okay. As a product of these events, Maeve and Zavander decide to head back to Zavander's other realm and learn how to protect themselves and end the spread of evil. But before they do so, they find Maeve's sister's body in the floorboards of the crone's house, and the book ends.
So I knew she was dead the whole time.
I just want to point out I was right.
I just need to point that out, that I understand context clues. When we decided to DNF this book, I tried to look up summaries too when you were doing that, and I gave up real quick. But I fully agree that reading this summary, I'm so glad that we didn't take 4 weeks to read this book. And I'm quoting 4 weeks because that's 4 recordings, right?
Yeah. There's just a lot happening here. And wow.
I do want to say, I have the same feeling I did at the prologue. Where like, no, I'm going to change it. I was going to say, if you boil it down to the essence, I'm still here for it, but I'm not here for it. can tell you based on this summary that I'm not going to like their romance because I don't think Zavander likes her. I don't really like when we have different realms and we just bop back and forth, and that's just like not a problem to do because it feels cheap.
Yeah, I also don't know why the Eating Wood is called the Eating Wood if it's actually just a portal to like another world, and is it like the whole forest or just a specific part in the forest? And like,
well, and then if it's just a portal, does that mean that all the people who are exiled are really just getting taken to that prison to be like little treats for the prisoners? Like,
you've been so good. Like, here's a treat.
You've been so good.
Where did the dragon go? Like, I just have so many questions.
And where did the dragon come from? Like, are there other dragons? Where did she find the egg? I get where she found it is probably in the book, but like, does the dragon
but this is
matter?
actually a good point because like the whole dragon thing is weird because she finds the egg in a place where she buried a dead raven.
Oh, I remember her burying the
scene
raven
of the book.
In the first
so where
scene.
she buried the dead raven, that raven disappears and an egg appears, which turns out to be a dragon.
McFucking excuse me? What did you just say to me?
What the fuck did you just say to me? Beyond that, too, like there's this whole like spoopy presence that's like I mentioned in the summary, changing letters on a note, and she can see the dead. Like, is that the influence of the goddess of death?
Well,
or the Eating Wood stuff?
Or the Eating Wood stuff? Like, I have so many questions and no desire to find the answers.
Right. Well, and then so did her sister like die in the wood and the crone found her and then she wanted to give her a proper burial, so she put her in the floorboards of her house? Or did the sister seek refuge with the crone and then the crone killed her? Or like
did something else when like everything got corrupted put her in the floorboards? Like, is the crone a positive influence or a negative one?
And why? I mean, does Devander even like her?
I mean, the fact that he had to be convinced, A, to go rescue her, B, to that they're mated, because of course there's mates in here. I had a third point too with like, it's that whole like, I can't kiss you because I have to kill you. And I just like, I'm not here for that because I just don't like that. I think it's dumb.
Yeah, that's where we're at. I'm
honestly speechless. That was so much chaos, and what was happening to me as you were going through that summary, which was not very long, and some of this might be cold medicine, but I don't think so, because what happened in the first 100 pages is I would be reading and I would not catch anything. And that happened just now where like, you're telling me all this chaotic stuff and my brain's just like,
nope. Yeah.
And like, there's a lot happening, but like, I don't care about any of it.
No. Yeah.
It's too much. Too much is happening that doesn't make sense. And again, to be clear, we didn't read the book. I'm not confident that experience would be any different. If you've read the book,
I'm not either.
Feel free to, well, don't come at me, but like, let us know.
Yeah, I mean, I would be interested to have a little bit more of a dialogue with somebody who did read the book. I'm just not interested to read the book myself because it's a big commitment and like, holy shit, no thank you.
And I did look at like other reviews and things, and I did see that a lot of people said that this book does have some like genuinely like spoopy parts, and it's like creepy and the world building there, and I can see all of that. It just, the summary is giving me the vibe of, again, we said it at the top of the episode, but trying to create an intricate story and you got lost in your own intricacies.
Right. Exactly. And honestly, like, I'm not sure that I'm into that type of intricacy, you know?
No, I'm not.
So obviously we're not going to rate the book because we didn't read it.
That would be unfair.
That would be unfair. So, I hope you like the TLDR. I hope it gave you a sense of the book to make an informed decision of your own whether or not you want to read it or move on to the next one like we did. But yeah, I mean, let us know what you think, because this is obviously new for us.
It is new for us. And we will be doing other TLDRs, but those will be different because they will be continuations of series that we've both read where only one of us is continuing it. So like throughout this, I wanted to like ask you questions that had you read the book, you'd be able to answer.
Right.
So like when we do our future TLDRs, like that'll be different, where this one we're both just like, I don't know.
I have no answers for you. Yeah. And we should be specific. Those TLDRs are going to be for series that we decided to not continue on the podcast, but we are interested enough, like at least one of us is willing to read the book.
We want to know.
So
there's just other books we want.
Yeah. But those are our thoughts on Anathema by Keri Lake. Thank you for joining us on this journey. And like I said, let us know what you think about this format on the socials. You can find us on TikTok and Goodreads at Spice Readers Pod. And then, of course, you can always find us on Patreon, where we release a lot of Patreon exclusive content. So if you really like our podcast and you want more, do consider becoming a patron. We really, really appreciate it. And it's a good pat on the back for us to keep doing what we're doing. So until next time, we'll get back to our regularly scheduled programming in 2 weeks, and we'll see you then. Bye.
Bye.